is a story that has 10 parts, and it follows the fluctuating fortunes of a French noble family through 2 world wars. And as I said, that's at 9:30. And then at 10:30, it's part 2 of Gregory Peck, in which Peter Lawford continues the story, the living legend, in fact, with contributions from Henry King and Celeste Holm. Then at 11:04, we conclude the transmission with the epilogue, and tonight it's conducted by the Reverend Graham Brayshaw of Durban.
Does your bra do everything it could for your figure? If not, try the Playtex Cross Your Heart bra. You could cross over to a better figure. This tape measure shows how every Cross Your Heart bra crosses over, lifts and separates to give you a better, younger looking figure. So if your bra doesn't do all it could for your figure, buy the famous Cross Your Heart bra from Playtex and cross over to a better figure.
Okay, that's a food planned. What about wine? With all these people coming, it would be nice to get jugs. But then Daphne grew up on a wine farm. Paul and Michelle eat out a lot, and we hardly know bit of cots. And Brian's just fussy about everything. We'll have to get something they'll all be happy with.
Taskelder?
Of course.
Taskelder. Wines you can serve with confidence.
Hello, darling.
You're not going to move me in this, are you?
Why not?
And the fridge too?
Yes, of course. There. Everything but the kitchen sink.
Volkswagen Golf. Everything. And the kitchen sink?
Last year, we told you about the machine that had outsold any other plain paper copier, the Nashua 1220, and announced the advent of the remarkable Nashua 1220 DF. Since then, these machines have become firmly entrenched as #1 in plain paper copiers. New things succeed as former things grow old. Nashua, #1 in plain paper copiers.
Wake up, little Susie, wake up. Wake up, little Susie, wake up.
Wake up to Harmony Color. Easy as a shampoo, conditions too. Watch the natural color of your hair come alive. Lasts through 6 shampoos.
Excuse me? You really look great.
That's because I just woke up.
A few weeks ago, we saw the front line of the war in Rhodesia. Tonight, in Woman Today Special, we take a look at another aspect, the women who for 10 years have known no other life.
Came back at 10:30 and said that they had found him. He had been killed by terrorists, just shot 1 shot through the heart.
Hung around for about 2 hours drinking, and then they brutally murdered her and took off into the hills.
And he was shot point blank by 2 black security officers.
I personally can't bear seeing a man cry, but you have to put on a front and cope with that situation.
This is a country which has lived with the ravages of war for so long that a whole generation of young people has grown up knowing no other life.
Where have all the young men gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young men gone?
Salisbury, 1980. To the visitor, day-to-day life, particularly in the cities, presents an outward appearance of tranquility and calm. Yet, beneath the veneer of normality runs a current of violence so savage that there are few families anywhere who have escaped the touch of sorrow, death, or destruction.
Good evening, here is the news. A Combined Operations Headquarters communique reports the deaths in action of 3 members of the security forces. The murder by terrorists is reported of Mr. Walter Barclay Brown, a 56-year-old farmer, his wife Mrs. Hazel Sheila Brown, and 74-year-old Mr. John Edward Gilbert. They died when a gang of terrorists attacked their homestead in the Hartley farming area yesterday evening, November the 12th. Security forces have mounted follow-up operations. All next of kin have been informed. Security forces have killed 41 terrorists and 13 terrorist collaborators. Elsewhere in the operational areas, terrorists have murdered 6 black civilians. On Sunday evening in the northeastern operational area, a man who had refused the demands of a Zanla terrorist gang for food was bayoneted to death. In the same area, a boy who trod on a terrorist landmine was killed in the explosion. In the same part of the country, an unidentified man was killed when a Scotch Guard detonated a terrorist landmine. That is the end of the communique.
But every white family in this country has been affected by the war in the last 7 years, certainly. And it seems to have made a lot of families more closely knit. It's made communities very much more closely knit. And women have, surprisingly in some cases, because it was a fun country, have taken the place of men in any sphere you like to name.
Stand up! In, Hobson! Go on! Shoot, Hobson! Look up! That's it. Try to move to the right and see. Right! Turn the shot!
Girls in the Rhodesian Army are recruited mainly for a clerical role. Certain of them do come and do various trades depending on what they've done before. I think the intention here is that they will release more men into the field so that they can go out and have a more active role while the women take over the administration.
What motivation do the girls have for joining?
I think essentially it's I want to do something for my country. Obviously you will always find a few who would join the army because there are a couple of males around. But I think deep down inside it's something that they really and truly want to do.
I joined the army because I wanted to help my country. I believe in what they're fighting for, and I'd like to be part of it. And in the army, I can carry out this role. Initially, when you start your training, it is a little bit difficult in the sense that all of a sudden you are being disciplined, perhaps from someone far younger than yourself. You have to accept this, obviously, and it takes a little time to get used to it. But this is life in the army. And after having gone through your recruit course, you come out a very much better person. I'll say that.
I'm South African and I came up to join the Rhodesian Army in September 78. I felt I wanted to join the army to know the experience of the army life and also to try and play a part in helping the Rhodesians in the war.
Remount training is basically training of individual horses to the way we have to use them on patrols, in the bush, to get them adapted to gunfire, living out there and going through a pretty rough time altogether. It can take anything up, depending on the stage the horse is at when we get it. It can take from 3 months, 1 month, up to a year, depending entirely on how young the horse is or, as I say, what stage it's at when it gets here. Several of us have come off quite badly. One of the boys has bust both arms twice. I've bust my shoulder blade. Dislocated my shoulder twice, gouged up my knee, and we've all gone through a bad patch one time or other. The women that come in here are mainly riders who have ridden most of their lives, or pretty good riders who have, say, ridden for, say, 5, 6 years. But most of us have ridden most of our lives, and know, you know, at least more than the basics about horsemanship.
Well, veterinary assistant means to me I can work with the animals I love most, the horses, and it gives me a great satisfaction to know that I can help patch them up when they've been wounded in an operational area.
One of the major benefits that the war has brought to the Air Force has been the introduction of women in uniform on a regular basis. They're now working alongside men in a whole variety of Air Force jobs. In the parachute packing section, women are doing a very valuable job packing and repairing parachutes used for supply drops and for dropping men into action. In all of the time that we've been using women in this section, there has never been a malfunction of a parachute due to a packer's mistake. When you consider that the girls are packing something like 15,000 parachutes every year, that really is quite an achievement. Equally vital to Air Force operations is the work that women do in the flying clothing section, servicing the flying helmets and masks and so on, which our aircrews use when they go into battle.
The women most actively involved in a paramilitary role in the Rhodesian conflict are the police reservists. Their main aim is the preservation of life and, secondly, that of property. These women man radio stations all over the country, run the armory, issue weapons. They work in the bomb squad, help conduct cordon and search and roadblocks. They also carry out routine station duties and at the same time organize food and supplies for the men in the sticks. What you're seeing now is a cordon and search in operation. At any moment of any day, a major street can be cordoned off and its occupants thoroughly searched. The reservists are looking for weapons and explosives, and the main object of this exercise is to prevent urban terrorism infiltrating the cities.
Roadblocks are boring, very, very tiring. They last for 10 hours, and we have a roadblock round the city every minute of every day. And the woman's part in the roadblock is searching other women. Go right through the Katunda, the suitcases, the baggages, if they're carrying melons, or you've got truckloads of guavas, mealies, pumpkins, you have to get them all out, go through the whole lot. Searching babies' nappies, you can understand, isn't everyone's idea of fun, and you know a lot of the African women carry their babies on their backs still. So in a search, you have to search the mother first, take the baby off, hold it on your chest, thoroughly search baby, and turn the mother round, search her, put the baby back on again. There was one occasion when an alert searcher on a roadblock picked up the fact that an African woman was constantly joggling baby on her back, although it wasn't crying. Now, this baby had been through the searchers. They'd found nothing. So how they called her back into line when they noticed the constant joggling and took the child off. Baby was dead and had been slit from throat to groin and had 5 hand grenades stuck into it.
Right, 5 rounds application in your own time, at your own target. Carry on.
When I joined the police reserve, I had never fired so much as a pellet gun in my life. And because of that, I decided I wasn't going to try and use a weapon because I didn't know how to at all. Anyhow, one of the men said to me one day, all we want you to be able to do is to pick up a gun and go on firing if we're knocked out. Well, after that, I couldn't not learn to fire. So since then, I've come up most Saturday mornings. I've learnt to fire a pistol and an FN. I can also manage an Uzi, and I have also fired an ordinary shotgun, but I find that a little bit heavy because it kicks so. When I tried to join the police reserve, I went up to the Hard Square and presented myself and was told at the time that there was an age restriction. But finally, I got an appointment to see one of the senior officers. I went in, told him that I knew there was an age restriction. I accepted that in peacetime conditions, but I couldn't see it mattered in a war situation. And all that I wanted was somebody to misread my date of birth. And he gave me a lopsided smile and said, "Can you cook?" And I said, "Yes."
My job in the police reserve is to deploy large quantities of men in operational areas, which means driving anything, kudus, Land Rovers, heavies, crocodiles, pumas, you name it, I might just drive it. There was a particular occasion when I had to deploy lots of men in an operational area. No one was personnel was there. And I deployed them and I couldn't get my truck reversed because it was wet and soggy, and I had to reverse 30 k's up the road with no lights at all.
I think women have come